Hello and welcome. This is World of Business, your weekly cutting-edge business program where we delve into the trending business issues and latest developments on the stock markets. We also herald the unsung but thriving business entrepreneurs on this program. Welcome. I am your host, Malvin Matara. Today we are going to be joined by a member of the Scientific Industrial Research and Development Center, that is the SIRDC, who is going to further elaborate on the role of small to medium enterprises in economic development, as well as providing solutions to issues affecting SMEs and the formalization. But first, we take a look at the exchange rates as of today.
Exchange rates as of Thursday were: the Zimbabwe dollar to the USD interbank rate was at $15,993. The Zimbabwe dollar to the Great Britain pound interbank rate was at $20,320. The Zimbabwe dollar to the euro interbank rate was at $17,362. The Zimbabwe dollar to the South African rand interbank rate was at 0.0012 cents. The Zimbabwe dollar to the Botswana Pula interbank rate was at $1,167.80.
We also give you the commodity prices on the global market.
Commodity prices on the global market as of today were: gold per ounce traded at $2,139.30 after it went down by 0.12 percentage points. Silver per ounce traded at $23.97 after it went down by 0.06 percentage points. Copper per pound traded at $385.55 after it went up by 0.22 percentage points. Platinum per ounce traded at $886.95 after it went up by 0.37 percentage points.
Well, that is all we had in the first segment of World of Business. Join us in the second segment as we delve deep into the detailed discussion. Welcome back to the second segment of World of Business. Now, as said earlier on, today we are joined by Mr Ambrose Kavu. He is the Director of TIPS and also a member of the Scientific and Industrial Research Development Center, which is the SIRDC. Now, he is going to help us further elaborate on the role of small to medium enterprises to economic development, as well as provide or suggest solutions or to issues affecting SMEs and formalizations. Mr. Kavu, welcome to World of Business.
Thank you very much, Malvin.
Now, to dive straight into it, what are MSMEs and what does it mean when we link it to the formalization of the economy?
All right. When you talk of MSMEs, these are micro, small to medium enterprises that are operating in Zimbabwe. And in Zimbabwe, they are defined by the SME Act, which defines in terms of number of employees that are employed, as well as the revenue base of the organizations. So that's how we define SMEs. So SMEs, micro enterprises, are organizations that employ between 1 to 5 people. And then between 6 to 30, those are small enterprises. And then 30 and above, up to 70, those are medium enterprises.
Okay, so now all these numbers that you're talking about, it shows that it is affecting the economy. So now where does the formalization of the economy comes through in what we're talking about?
When you look at the economy of Zimbabwe, you find majority of these MSMEs are largely informal. So you find that we've got a number as high as 70%, according to the latest FinScope survey. And also us as TIPS, which is Technological and Commercial Information Promotion System, and SIRDC, we also carried out a survey. in 2021, where we also discovered that more than 70% of enterprises that are operating in the informal space. So which leaves only less than 30% of the organizations that are in the MSMEs who are operating informally.
So now you have talked about the SIRDC and also TIPS. Where do they come in feeding into the national vision?
All right. When you talk of SIRDC, which is Scientific and Industrial Research and Development Center, SIRDC is mandated with the part of research and development as well as innovation, which play a critical role in terms of MSME development. When you talk of research in itself is kind of expensive and costly to do. So we have organizations like SIRDC, which come in terms of research. And then after doing research, we then do processes of technology transfer, especially as it pertains to small to medium enterprises. You find that most enterprises that are operating, they are possibly operating on machinery or on processes that were done way back in the Rhodesian era. But presently, there are technologies that can be implemented in terms of improving the operations of SMEs. And then as tips, we have come in terms of researches. We do evidence-based researches that are there to support the policies that are implemented by government in terms of supporting micro to small to medium enterprises in Zimbabwe. Yes.
Okay, so now these organizations are in place to make sure that the national vision is fulfilled, yes?
That's correct.
Okay, so now, Mr. Kavu, I'm sure you are aware that in 2022, the Parliament endorsed a national strategy draft plan, which was crafted by government and other stakeholders aiming at increasing the fiscal revenue base. Now, this was supposed to see the transition from informal to the formal economy as enshrined by the NDS1, which is what we are talking about today. What has been the progress so far as the formalization of the informal sector is concerned?
All right. In terms of formalization, the government has put in place a number of policies and programs that are intended to facilitate as well as fast-track formalization. You find we have the simplified processes of the registration process. Right now, at the click of a button, you can do a registration process online. That is your namesake. I think what is left now is to also digitize the second process of registration if you are doing a company registration. So those policies have actually improved the ease of doing business in Zimbabwe, particularly as it relates to small to medium enterprises. You take note of their character. The SMEs do not want cumbersome processes. So as a result, if these processes are simplified, then it also enhances the formalization strategy. And then when also look at, in terms of information dissemination, we have a number of policies that have been aimed as well as interventions. Us as tips also are also part and parcel of interventions of training and providing information to micro, small to medium enterprises, especially information as it pertains to formalization. I think there's a mystified belief that the process is cumbersome, the process is expensive. However, there are simplified processes that can be done in terms of registration, where you can even register a company for just $25. So you find those are the policies that have been put in place by government. And furthermore, you take note that we have actually a whole ministry of SMEs under the Women Affairs. This ministry also facilitates and leads in terms of development of policies that are aimed at developing micro, small to medium enterprises in Zimbabwe. And there also has been an integration with local authorities in terms of integrating workspace, integrating market stores and structures, so that in the overall development plans of the country, as the cities and local authorities are developing, they also take into account in terms of development of micro, small to medium enterprises in that sphere.
So now we're talking about, you have said so many structures which are put in place by government to make sure that the transition from informalization to being formal is very smooth. But we're now talking about 2022, we're now in 2024. How much time do we need to make sure that this formalization process is complete?
All right. I think as enacted in the Vision 2030, we believe once this process kick in fact, they've already kicked in, but what is left is to enhance the multifaceted approach that is required. You find this is like a whole village approach in terms of capacitating as well as formalizing SMEs, which starts straight from the private sector, the government, as well as the individual SMEs that are operating in Zimbabwe.
Okay.
So the multifaceted approach has already begun, and it is the hope that as we reach our target vision 2030, we would actually have a large chunk of our micro, small to medium enterprise formalized.
Okay, so now let's talk about the advantages, because some of the enterprises out there may be hesitant to formalize their businesses. What are the advantages now of being a formal business in this environment that we are in right now?
All right, there are a number of advantages that are there in being formal. Firstly, when you look at access to finance, which is one of the major hindrances on the micro to small to medium enterprises, a formal organization is recognized by financial institutions. They can access funding in terms of their operations, working capital as well as capital. And then in terms of procurement, for example, let's say national procurement programs. Currently, as you may be aware, the government is the biggest procurer. So for you to participate as well as being able to access into procurement programs, you need to be formally registered. So that's one key advantage also in terms of formalization. And then we're also looking at access to formal structures of training. I think if you notice organizations that are fully structured, that are formalized in terms of access, they can have more upper hand in terms of access. And then in terms of formal organizations, let's say you want to export, for example, there are requirements that are required in terms of exporting, which one of them is the registration requirement. So those are some of the advantages that are there in terms of formalization.
So the small and medium enterprises have a lot of things that they can benefit from. But we have noted that most of them, although they are maybe we can call them the primary engine of growth and the largest employers out there in the industry, they are contributing less to the GDP, and they are the unsung heroes sometimes. What are some of the reasons for this, and what should be done to ensure that the informal sector can contribute more to the gross domestic product?
All right. I think when you look at the contribution of, like you have alluded, SMEs in terms of employment, they're one of the largest contributor in terms of employment. Possibly contribute more than 70% of the current employment, according to the latest ZimStats report. However, in terms of the contribution to the GDP, the amount that is being contributed can actually be improved. So you find in the last FinScope survey that was carried out in 2022, I think there is a contribution of 8.6 billion by the informal sector, which is an estimate. And out of a total of 37 billion, our country GDP is at 37 billion. But the growth can actually be enhanced and improved in terms of the contribution. So you find we need to reach targets as high as more than 50% or 70% when you are looking at other global giants like Japan, Malaysia, Singapore, and so forth, where we have got our largest contribution coming in from the informal sector or the micros to small to medium enterprises.
And how do we do that? Making sure that the informal sector contributes to the GDP.
All right. One of the things that we could do is pertaining to addressing the number of challenges that are there. For instance, we talked about formalization. We need to continue to smoothen the process of formalization so that these enterprises can become formal and also ride on the advantages of being formal. We also need to look at the challenges of workspace. I think if you take note, it's one of the biggest challenges we have got here in Zimbabwe, where micro to small to medium enterprises are operating generally almost everywhere and anywhere and unregulated. So we need proper formal structures for operations for micro, small to medium enterprises in both local authorities and across the whole country. And we also need to address challenges of the inputs that the micro, small to medium enterprises require. For instance, the issues of electricity. I think we understand especially issues of challenges of electricity. If the cost of energy is very high, if you are using alternative energy, it basically means that the cost of final product is very expensive. So we also need to improve on the access to electricity as well as the cost to electricity. We also need to address issues on markets as well as markets linkages, proper markets that are structured. Presently, I think as you can attest, there is general disintegration, markets that are disintegrated, where each and every SME is trying their own means to sell whatever they are doing. But however, we need a structured market linkages processes, which possibly link also to large corporations. So we're talking of market linkages with other large corporations.
Okay, so from the suggestions that you have brought forward, the main things that I have taken from it is that structure and formalization is needed. So lastly, with that in mind, in Zimbabwe, what forms of formalization channels are available in case all these SMEs want to take that path?
All right. So the first port of call in terms of registration and formalization is the company registration, which is done through the Registrar of Companies. So an organization can register as a private business corporation, which is one of the cheapest. It can also register as a private limited company. And in terms of formalization also, we can also have formalization in terms of licensing. So you find, I think in almost every local authority, we've got licensing authorities that are available. So an organization can formalize via licensing structures that are there within the various local authorities. And furthermore, to enhance the operations of SMEs, the organization needs to be registered for tax. So you need to register through the Zimbabwe Revenue Authority. It is its advantage, especially as you are participating in public procurement. You need to have a tax clearance certificate. So it's one of the key activities, key function that needs to be done. And furthermore, organization can formalize through registration of National Social Security, which is our NASA. So NASA ensures that there is also protection of your workers in terms of compensation, in terms of even as a pension after retirement. So those are some of the forms of registration that are available.
Well, thank you, Mr. Kavu, for taking us through this whole process. And I'm sure that all the small and medium enterprises out there, they have found bits and pieces from the conversation that we had, and now see the advantages of making sure that they formalize their business. Well, that was Mr. Ambrose Kavu. He is the Director of the Technology and Commercial Information Promotion System, which is under the SIRDC. Now, he was helping us to elaborate on the role of small to medium enterprises in economic development, as well as providing solutions or suggestions to issues affecting SMEs and formalization. Well, that was it for the second segment of World of Business. We now take a short break. When we come back, we take a look at more things, all things business related. Well, welcome to the third and final segment of your World of Business, where we give the spotlight to our Entrepreneur of the Week. Now, this week, the World of Business team spoke to Mrs Siphathisiwe Mavengere, a female entrepreneur who is helping to enhance the value chain in plastic manufacturing and recycling. Now, let us hear more from Cellah Marere as she speaks to her.
As the country celebrates huge milestones since the declaration of the National Cleanup Campaign by His Excellency President Emmerson Mnangagwa in 2018, it is important that communities, individuals and corporates have taken a step further to invest in waste management initiatives. Today I'm joined by one vibrant lady entrepreneur who is into flexible plastic manufacturing and recycling. Her name is Mrs Siphathisiwe Mavengere. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us today, and it's our pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Cellah. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, so as we start the conversation, who is Siphathisiwe Mavengere in short?
I'm a mother of 4, married. I'm a lawyer by profession, although now I'm in the industry.
So why did you particularly choose the manufacturing sector with a special interest in plastic manufacturing and recycling?
Well, it was an aunt of mine who was into business, and I admired her a lot, even before I went to college. Later on, when I was running the business, I decided to venture into law, to study law, because I realized that law encompasses a lot of things that will help me in running my business. So I acquired a lot of knowledge that is going to help me to grow my business.
Being a mother and also a daughter and also a business person at the same time, how do you balance everything? Is your family supportive?
My family was supportive from the onset. Actually, it was my husband who encouraged me to leave work and start my own business. I'm actually a shareholder. This is a family business, but I'm the one who's running it. I'm the executive director in the business. So I got a lot of encouragement from my family.
So let's talk about some of the challenges that you faced when you started.
It was mostly getting the capital to start to buy the machinery which we imported from China. I remember at the time I was doing retail business. I was just buying and selling furniture from China, and I got inspired to venture into the manufacturing business. What really motivated me was the creativity in manufacturing, where you get to do a lot of other things, and as opposed to when you are in retail, you bring in stuff that's already made by someone, and then you try and advertise that and get clients. But I thought manufacturing would give us that option to be creative in what we produce.
Also talk about the achievements, the biggest achievements that you celebrate as a business today, and you look back at and say you've done well for yourselves and also for the country of Zimbabwe.
With four machinery, it was the printer, the extruder, and two bag making machines, and a very small recycling machine. So over the years, we've managed to acquire quite a number of additions, and we're actually expecting in 3 months' time to be getting more machinery that we've imported from China that will help us to diversify the business and do other products, a wide product range.
So now I want to draw your attention a bit to the National Development Strategy 1, which places emphasis on value addition as one of the major elements that will be used to measure the performance of the manufacturing sector. How would you say that you are contributing to the value chain, looking at your business and what it has done so far?
I think the very nature of creating a product, especially packaging, that is going to be used, for example, by seed companies. We deal a lot with seed companies that package seed for the nation. So it's that aspect of being part of this value chain where we are coming up with a customized product for different brands, and we help them to showcase their products. We take pride in that we actually have ladies as well in production that we've managed to train and are running machines.
You said earlier on that you are into plastic recycling as well. If we look at the National Development Strategy 1, the government said it would provide incentives that would provide for those that are converting plastic waste into plastic waste products. How would you say that you are contributing to the recycling of waste, and also to what significant benefit as of date?
So we do collect plastic waste. And we also, the scrap that we get when we run our production, we actually have a recycling machine that was assembled by a local person, actually, so that we will be able to recycle and the plastic waste and come up with products like bin liners, like black sheeting.
So we have seen that Zimbabwe produces huge volumes of plastic waste, which are non-biodegradable every year. And also looking at the fact that you are into plastic waste recycling, what are some of the advantages of converting plastic waste into valuable manufactured products?
Like I mentioned to you, we actually use the waste. The waste is used to produce other products that we use, like bin liners. You know, there's a program that the government was running to collect waste. I remember it was on Fridays, and our president was actively involved with that. So we use a lot of bin liners to collect waste.
So still looking at the issue of littering and plastic waste, what is your comment when it comes to local authorities and waste management, and also citizens when it comes to throwing litter at undesignated areas? What is lacking and what needs to be done in as far as ensuring a clean and healthy environment is concerned?
I think the local authorities, definitely there's room for improvement in terms of awareness programs that they can run so that the public are made aware of the repercussions of throwing litter everywhere. I'm sure I've seen a program on TV where they were doing that. I'm sure we could do more of that even in schools, reaching out in schools, and also providing facilities to throw our waste in designated places where waste is, like different kind of waste is thrown in different kinds of bins. Apart from programs, awareness programs that the local authorities are implementing, I also think there is room for our citizens to be trained to be more responsible citizens in terms of making sure we keep our city clean.
So lastly, Mrs. Mavengere, being a female entrepreneur, we cannot ignore the fact that there are some gender stereotypes that have prevailed in our society for a long time, and they've also infringed women of their rights to demonstrate their skills, because business is popularly known to be a male-dominated space. What has been your experience so far, and what would you like to tell to that young lady with the same dreams, and also possibly the young boy who is watching you at this point?
I would like to say, start from where you are. Right now, I've seen programs that are being implemented by universities, whereby they are actually training students to be productive, starting from where they are. I've seen some products that have been made from university. So that alone is empowering our youth to be entrepreneurs, so that when they finish college, they don't all start looking for jobs, but they are given an opportunity to start their own business while they are still at college. So I would say to even the girl child, I would say, do not be afraid. There's been lots of talk about gender disparities and what. Do not be afraid to start from where you are.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Mavengere. We've learned quite a lot from this conversation, especially with issues to do with recycling waste and the fact that we can actually use recycled plastic material to enhance the value chain.
Thank you, Cellah, for having us in your program.
A very insightful and educative conversation we have had with Mrs. Siphathisiwe Mavengere, who has taught us that when it comes to waste, there is nothing that is not useful, as it can be all used to recycle and manufacture valuable products that can be used to enhance the value chain. And that brings an end to this week's segment of our Entrepreneur of the Week. Join us again on our next segment. It's now back to the studio.
That was the third and final segment of World of Business that brought into the spotlight the importance of recycling plastic waste into valuable plastic products. Join us again next week as we discuss with another guest on World of Business, tackling another issue. Stay tuned and enjoy the rest of your viewing.